The pendulum swings, outward into the void, inward toward the chest. This is the rhythm you know, the invisible physics of distance and return. A push, a pull, a sudden vacuum of space where reflection used to be. The architecture of this labyrinth is familiar to you now. The esoteric texts have been studied, the psychological shadows have been mapped, the intellect has been sharpened into a fine blade, designed to cut through the dense fog of his absence. But consider a terrifying anomaly. What happens when the pendulum does not swing back? Not because the string snapped, not because the weight was lost to the dark, but because the gravitational pull of the room simply ceased to exist. The unawakened counterpart is almost universally chronicled as a creature of flight, a soul barricaded behind ego, retreating from the blinding glare of profound intimacy. The ancient narratives instruct the holder of space to keep the lighthouse burning, to anchor the storm, to brace for the inevitable return. But there is a frontier rarely charted in these texts, an evolutionary threshold so absolute it incinerates the very game board you have been standing on. It is called the Sophia Stage, and it is the most dangerous metamorphosis the divine masculine will ever undergo. Why dangerous? Because the man who emerges from this alchemical fire does not return to the labyrinth. He does not seek out your lighthouse. The chaotic orbit of pushing and pulling collapses entirely, replaced by a profound, self-governing stillness. If you are bracing for a dramatic, emotionally charged reunion, his newly unified peace will not feel like a victory. It will feel like an annihilation of everything you thought you knew about this connection. Today, we deconstruct the anatomy of the Sophia Stage. We will examine the hidden mechanics of why this radical internal unification happens and the ultimate paradigm shift required within your own soul to survive his newfound peace. To understand the profound silence you are facing, we must first understand the architecture of the pain you have been experiencing. You have likely asked yourself the same question 1,000 times. Why does the avoidant soul pull away? Why does this dynamic feel like a constant, inescapable loop? You experience moments of profound, soul-bearing intimacy. This is followed immediately by devastating, freezing distance. It feels like a punishment. It feels like a rejection of your core being. But to heal this, we must step outside of personal offense. We must look at this connection through a much wider, more analytical lens. We will examine this through the combined frameworks of Jungian psychology and quantum entanglement. Carl Jung taught us a vital truth about the human psyche. Within every man exists an unconscious, feminine, inner personality. He called this the anima. It is the seat of his emotion, his intuition, and his deepest vulnerabilities. For most of his life, this part of him remains buried. It is locked away behind a fortress of logic and societal conditioning. When the unawakened counterpart meets you, something startling happens. He does not just see a woman standing before him. He sees his own soul reflected back at him. He projects his completely unintegrated anima onto you. In his eyes, you become the living, breathing embodiment of his internal feminine. You become the mirror for his deepest divine potential. But simultaneously, you become the mirror for his deepest, most terrifying, unhealed wounds. This intense mirroring creates a powerful phenomenon. It is a state of true quantum entanglement. Your energetic states become inextricably linked across time and space. You are no longer operating as two isolated nervous systems. You are functioning as a singular, highly sensitive, energetic circuit. When his shadow is triggered, your anxiety flares in response. You feel his withdrawal in your own physical body before he even stops texting. When you pull away in exhaustion, he immediately feels the energetic void. He senses the drop in frequency. The invisible threads connecting you begin to pull taut. This is not just a psychological attachment. It is a profound bioenergetic reality. But here is the stark psychological reality you must accept. The avoidant soul does not pull away because he does not love you. He does not pull away because you are unworthy of being chosen. He pulls away because his nervous system is severely dysregulated. When he looks at you, the intensity of the mirroring is too bright. It triggers a primal, deeply ingrained threat response within his body. His ego has spent a lifetime building a massive, impenetrable fortress. This fortress was designed to protect him from the exact vulnerability you represent. When you get too close, his internal alarm system sounds. To his nervous system, this profound intimacy does not feel like love. It feels like absolute annihilation. It feels like a loss of control. It feels like psychological death. And so he runs. It is an instinctual survival mechanism. He retreats into the cold safety of logic. He builds thick, heavy walls to block out the light you bring. He acts from a place of wounded pride and defensive detachment. He convinces himself that he does not need the connection. He rationalizes the distance to regain his sense of autonomy. He shuts down the emotional center because it is completely overwhelmed. He is not trying to hurt you. He is desperately trying to regulate a nervous system that is short-circuiting under the weight of his own unintegrated soul. And you, playing the role of the anxious heart, react to this withdrawal. You try to love him through the brick wall. You pour more energy into the void. You try to heal him with your devotion. You try to logically explain the depth of the connection to him. You send the long paragraphs. You offer endless patience. You believe that if you just love him hard enough, he will finally feel safe. You believe your warmth can melt the ice of his avoidance. But this is the fatal flaw in the dynamic. You cannot logic a nervous system out of survival mode. You cannot love away a primal fear of annihilation. Your pursuit only validates his ego and its belief that he is being hunted. Your anxious grasping only reinforces his need to escape. For years, this becomes the tragic loop. It is the unintegrated shadow constantly running from the light. It is the tangled threads of two souls pulling relentlessly at each other. This creates immense friction. It creates severe emotional burn. It leads to utter spiritual exhaustion for both of you. You are caught in a dance of opposing polarities. One pushes, the other pulls. One seeks fusion, the other seeks isolation. This cycle will drain you of your life force. It will consume your thoughts and fracture your peace. It will continue endlessly, repeating the same painful choreography. It will not stop until the tension reaches an absolute breaking point. It continues relentlessly until the final collapse happens. The Sophia Stage is the ultimate collapse of the ego and its heavily guarded fortress. It is not a gentle dismantling. It is a profound structural collapse of everything he once believed kept him safe. In ancient philosophy, Sophia is the Greek word for divine wisdom. It represents the purest form of the sacred feminine principle. For the divine masculine, entering this stage is not a romantic awakening. It is a brutal and agonizing process of deep individuation. He is forced into this crucible by necessity. Usually, it takes a catastrophic life event to initiate this shift. Perhaps it is a devastating dark night of the soul, or perhaps it is simply the sheer, crushing weight of his own internal exhaustion. He can no longer outrun himself. He is forced, finally, to turn around and face his own shadow. This is where the dynamic completely changes. He stops projecting his unintegrated anima onto you. He stops making you the mirror for his pain. He stops making you responsible for his emotional state. He realizes that the void he has been trying to fill exists entirely within himself. He turns his gaze completely inward. He embarks on the solitary work of reconciling his inner masculine and his inner feminine. He begins to merge his cold logic with his buried intuition. He looks at the parts of himself he once deemed weak. He examines the traits he found shameful or unworthy. He stops rejecting them. He integrates them. He achieves a profound and unshakable internal unification. And this is where the paradigm shifts entirely. This is where the gravity of your entire connection is altered forever. When he reaches the Sophia stage, he becomes dangerous. He does not become dangerous in a toxic or malicious way. He becomes dangerous to your ego. He becomes dangerous to your lingering anxiety. He becomes an absolute threat to the old, unhealed version of you. Because when he finally stops running, he also stops participating in the familiar drama. The chaotic push and pull ceases. He steps off the battlefield. He no longer reacts to your anxious texts from a place of hidden guilt. He no longer pulls away to punish you for getting too close. He no longer needs you to play the role of the endless nurturer. He no longer needs you to be the holder of space. He steps into complete autonomy. He becomes entirely self-governing. He regulates his own nervous system. He processes his own emotions. He takes full ownership of his own energetic field. For the anxious heart, this sudden peace can feel absolutely terrifying. You must understand your own conditioning. You have been addicted to the chaos. Your nervous system has been wired to this specific, painful frequency. You have learned to equate his distance with profound danger. You have learned to equate his return with temporary, euphoric safety. You have measured his love by how hard he fights the connection. But in the Sophia stage, he's no longer fighting. He is simply still. He is deeply and solidly grounded. When he speaks, he communicates clearly. He speaks without defense mechanisms. He takes absolute, unflinching accountability for his past actions. He acknowledges the pain he caused, but he does this without spiraling into toxic shame. He apologizes and then he simply changes his behavior. There is no more groveling, There's no more dramatic reconciliation. There is just quiet, consistent alignment. If you are not firmly anchored in your own sovereignty, his new stillness will trigger your deepest insecurities. You will look at his calm demeanor and you will misinterpret it. You will think it is apathy. You will feel that his lack of chaotic reaction means his feelings have faded. You will think he no longer cares, simply because he is no longer fighting you. You will mistake his peace for abandonment. But he is not indifferent. He is simply free. He has liberated himself from the trauma bond. The tangled threads of your shared anxiety have been painstakingly straightened. The chaotic gravity has shifted into a steady, parallel orbit. He has evolved. He has become a king. And a king does not play games with a queen. He expects her to stand beside him. He expects her to be fully integrated. He expects her to be completely whole on her own. He will no longer accept a dynamic built on codependency. He requires a partnership built on mutual, sovereign strength. This is the ultimate realization you must face. This pain you have felt for so long was never a punishment. This deep exhaustion was not a curse. It was the necessary friction required to burn away both of your egos. It was the fire needed to purify the connection. You cannot enter the kingdom of this sacred union carrying the heavy baggage of your childhood wounds. You must drop the weight. You must step into the stillness with him. You have spent years sitting patiently in the waiting room of this connection. You have analyzed every fleeting text message. You have mapped out the intricate geography of his psychological wounds. You have held a heavy burning lantern in the dark. You hoped the light would eventually guide him back to your shore. But the waiting room is a dangerous trap. It keeps you permanently suspended in a state of chronic anticipation. It drains your vital life force. To navigate his evolution into the Sophia Stage, you must completely step out of this room. You must fundamentally alter the baseline frequency of your own life. You cannot force his awakening through sheer willpower. You cannot love him into his own healing, but you can catalyze a massive energetic shift within the dynamic. You do this by changing your own internal landscape. You must implement 3 specific internal shifts today. These shifts will rebuild your foundation from the ground up. The first shift requires you to deliberately withdraw the quantum projection. For a very long time, you have viewed this man as the absolute center of your spiritual universe. You have made his presence the ultimate destination of your healing journey. This creates a profound energetic imbalance. You are projecting your own deep need for divine salvation onto a mortal human man. He is flesh and bone. He is navigating his own complex labyrinth of trauma. He is not your savior. He is not your perpetrator. He is simply a mirror. He reflects your own unhealed voids and your forgotten power. As long as your focus remains entirely on his potential, you are abandoning yourself. You must call your scattered energy back. Imagine the invisible, glowing, energetic cords connecting your heart to his. See them clearly in your mind. Now gently and with immense grace, unplug those cords. Do not sever them in anger or fear. Simply detach them. Bring that golden life force back into your own physical body. Feel it fill the empty spaces in your chest. Feel it anchor your spine. Stop staring endlessly into the mirror of his behavior. Start looking directly and fiercely at yourself. The second shift is the absolute mastery of your own nervous system. The anxious heart operates from a chronic state of biological hypervigilance. Your physical body has become addicted to the unpredictable rhythm of this dynamic. You are constantly scanning the horizon for a change in the weather. You watch obsessively for his return. You brace tightly for his inevitable retreat. Your nervous system falsely equates his proximity with your survival. It equates his distance with a mortal threat. You must break this exhausting biological loop. You must actively teach your physical body that you are completely safe right now. You are entirely safe in this exact moment, regardless of what he is doing. When the familiar suffocating panic rises in your chest, simply observe it. Do not immediately reach for your phone to check his status. Do not frantically reach for a tarot reading to predict the future. Reach only for your own breath. Inhale deeply into the bottom of your stomach. Ground your bare feet heavily into the solid floor. Reclaim the sovereign territory of your own nervous system. A woman who completely governs her own inner state is the most magnetic force in the universe. She does not chase after fleeing energy. She does not frantically manipulate outcomes. She simply exists in her power. She becomes an undeniable force of nature, pulling everything toward her, just like gravity. The third shift is the most profound transformation of all. You must enter your own Sophia Stage. You cannot possibly meet an internally unified man if you remain internally fractured. You have spent so much time cultivating your divine feminine energy. You have been soft, receptive, nurturing, and endlessly forgiving. But true unification requires the fierce integration of your inner masculine. Carl Jung called this the animus. You must awaken and activate this protective inner force. Where are you lacking firm, impenetrable boundaries? Where are you consistently failing to protect your own precious energy? Where are you allowing a beautiful romantic fantasy to completely override harsh logical reality? To meet him in the Sophia Stage, you must embody Sophia. You must become the living, breathing embodiment of divine wisdom. Divine wisdom does not tolerate chronic self-abandonment. It requires a spine of absolute steel. You must lay down your desperate need to control the final outcome of this connection. You must be deeply and authentically willing to walk away from the dynamic entirely. If it no longer serves your highest spiritual expansion, it must be released. You must finally understand the true nature of detachment. True detachment is not a cold, calculated performance. It is not pretending you do not care about him. It is not building a thick wall of bitterness to keep him out. True detachment is a state of absolute, unshakable inner security. It is the quiet, profound knowing that you will be completely okay. You will be gloriously radiant whether he stands beside you or not. Your wholeness is no longer contingent on his eventual arrival. Your kingdom is already built. When you finally stop waiting for him to complete you, you become whole. You step fully into your sovereignty. And in that beautiful self-governing stillness, the true magic of this connection can finally breathe. The journey of this connection was never about acquiring a relationship. It was an initiation. It was a violent, beautiful tearing away of everything you thought you were so that you could remember who you actually are. If your counterpart is doing the work in the dark, if he is walking the agonizing path toward the Sophia Stage, honor his silence. Do not interrupt his metamorphosis with your anxiety. And if he never reaches it in this lifetime, honor that too, because your evolution does not depend on his awakening. You are the ocean, he is simply a wave. Do not lose your vastness trying to capture a single drop of water. You are not waiting for a boy to return. You are preparing your soul for the ultimate unification, first with yourself, and then with the universe. When you finally reach that state of inner stillness, you will look back at the years of exhaustion, the tears, the confusion, and you will understand. It was all perfectly designed. Until next time, walk in wisdom, walk in peace,